Welcome, everybody, to Live Louder podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Scott Jones.
I'm Melodie Walter. Happy
Yes.
Saturday.
We gave you full names this time because, shit happens sometimes. You got to find people. So if you got to find us. And I want to, before we start the show, I want to thank everyone for the well wishes, for the comments, and even some of the advice that I got, the unsolicited advice after about 10 days ago, I had a substantial heart attack, one of many, apparently, over the last couple of weeks. And I got in the hospital, and it was a critical situation. The hospital was great right down here in South Florida. They did a great job taking care of me. I want to thank the doctors, the nurses, my cardiologist, all those guys who stepped up. I feel better than I have felt in months and months and months and months. And I want to thank everybody for your well wishes. And Melodie for showing up with a teddy bear. He's up on my shelf in my room now.
Is he really?
Yes, of course. Of course. It was the coolest teddy bear. And of course, that's one of my favorite Elvis songs, Teddy Bear. So I love that. But I'm feeling better. I will tell you this, though. I could have saved myself a lot of heartache, a lot of problems, and a lot of issues had I gone to a doctor or at least talked to somebody about the pain and what was going on with me. But I held it. I thought I was being manly. I thought I was toughing it up. I didn't want to go to the hospital, found out I had gas pains. Better to be safe than sorry. I came a lot closer to kicking off this mortal coil than I should have. So if you have anything physical going on or mental going on and you're concerned or even have a moment of concern, talk to somebody, make a phone call. Better to be wrong about something silly than not deal with something really, really serious.
And we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
We wouldn't be. And it makes me think. It makes me think about a lot of things in my life and reevaluate. I have a plan on how I want to treat the world and help people, but I did not have a plan on how I wanted to treat myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now I do.
I'm so happy that you are alive, Scott.
That's right.
That was very, very tough.
I'm taking myself for ice cream right after the show. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to get a haircut. I've been in the hospital. I need a haircut.
And I'm going to be down at Auction Company America's big auction that they're having at Palmetto Bay. If you want details on that, go to auctioncompany.com. And yeah, it's going to be a great estate sale. It's my other side addiction is estate sales and auctions. Yeah.
Estate sales are awesome.
Yeah.
Is this going to be online as well?
No.
It's just a live event. Mm-hmm. Just a live event.
And you can find all the details on their
all right. Before we get to our guests, we'll get a couple of hellos. Nellie, so happy you were doing better. So scary.
Nellie.
Thank you, Nellie. Christina, glad you're healing.
Hi, Christina.
And of
good morning.
Course, Sandy Mom says good morning, kids. Good morning.
Good morning,
Mom.
Sandy.
Also, big shout out and congratulations to Emily and Chris Walsh and Therese Gallup. My friends just had a baby. Therese is the grandma, and Emily and Chris are the proud parents. Congratulations on your beautiful baby girl,
Congratulations.
Juliana.
Oh, that's amazing.
Now, do you want to introduce this? See, this is a friend of mine.
No,
it's so hard.
I can't. I just can't. It's too much. The guru of NLP. I mean, entertainment industry. I mean, I don't know where to begin.
Several years ago, I started working with of course, the great Lynn Serrano and some other fantastic people. We had Barry
Selby.
We had Scott Schilling, and Rex Sykes was one of the guys we were doing these shows with. And I started to get to know Rex, and I started to really understand that this guy has a different understanding of what real strength, real power is, real change is about. And it's not all this foo-foo kind of thing. It's really more of, if you want it, it's there for you. But there's so much.
And he's a Guinness Book of World Record holder, Scott. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
He's amazing. I mean,
we'll have to find out.
It's for like the longest leadership conference or summit.
Oh, okay.
I think, yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure it wasn't like skydiving or something like that. Because I want proof. Let's bring him to the stage.
Yay! Hey! Yes, Rex.
Rex, how are you?
Well, I'm good, but I'm really, really grateful to be here with Melanie and you because you're here.
So, well, thank you. I appreciate. Rex is one of those people that I kind of disappeared from right before I had the major heart attack because when I physically started to deteriorate, I pulled away socially from people. And Rex kept trying to track me down. And thanks for staying on my ass, Rex, because as soon as I realized what was wrong with me and I started to get healed, I knew that you were one of those people who weren't just going to let me disappear. And I appreciate you for that.
Amazing. Like my dad used to say,
well, and
above the ground is a good one. Some are better than others.
well, and we owe our connecting during your time frame to Melanie, because I had no idea what was going on, and she reached out and said, "Hey, here's what's happening." So, thank you both. Thank you both.
And then an angel called me when I was needing prayers and just words of solace. I just left the hospital, went and saw you. I was getting ready to run back to see my dad at the hospital. And Rex calls me. I had walked into my apartment. I was not in a good space. And he called me. And immediately I felt like he was an old friend of mine. I mean that.
We are.
Yeah.
Well, and Rex, that's one of the things that I think is really kind of your ballywick here is that true connection is where a lot of work happens. And there's a lot of pseudo connections and false connections and different things like that. But you really believe in true connections with people, don't you?
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. I hear myself coming back. Is that a?
No, you're good.
Oh, because it echoes to me. But okay, no worries.
Just ignore the extra voices in your head, my friend. We're good.
Be kind to your mind, Rex.
Exactly. Who is that man in there? But I'm a firm believer in transmission. Tony Robbins and I came up around the same time. I'm older and probably had been in longer than he had, but Tony wanted to accomplish something, and he had a team of people who nobody ever really knows about build him into who he is. People like to think it was Tony that did it. Tony, I mean, not to take anything from him, but he had a team of people who said, let's push this guy out there. And they did. And so, the seminars grew and grew and grew and grew. I've always wanted the opposite. I want to have intimate meetings with people where we can sit, we can meditate, we can reflect, we can talk, we can get to know each other, we can eat, we can fellowship, we can share. Because transmission is just as important as transformation. And it's one thing to sit in a seminar room, with another couple hundred people or 1,000 people or online, with a bunch of people in Zoom. It's another thing to have that intimate personal connection.
Yes.
And, I've spent a lot of time with gurus, from the East and the West, and acting and celebrities. And, it's one thing to say, I saw so-and-so in a movie. It's another thing to go, we have breakfast together just about every day. And the reason for that is because there's so much that's lost. Because people want things so badly, they get information. We're in an information age, and they get the information, and then they do nothing with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why, I'll say that from ancient times to modern times, science validates what has happened, what ancient mystics do.
Mm-hmm.
Some people want the validation, and then they get the validation. They go, oh, that's cool. Now they have another thing to talk about, but they don't use it to transform themselves. And my goal is to help people transform themselves and to have a community, a relationship with other people. And I hate the term like-minded, because I don't want people to be like-minded. I don't want people to think like me. I want people to challenge me and invite me to do other things and share with me and show me when I'm not doing so good and help me when I am. Mm-hmm. So it's about relationships more than it is about anything else.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you're right. Information is out there for us. And, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today is everybody's access to all of this stuff for self-improvement and motivation and change and all that. And they can be taken advantage of because everybody's looking for these quick fixes. But the information is out there. It doesn't attain a lot of discipline to get the information anymore. Mm-hmm. And so now you get this information, but without practical use or practical example in front of you, you don't know. It's like handing a baby a dictionary and saying, learn English. It's not going to happen. The baby needs to experience other people around them learning English to see how it works in real practical cases. Is that kind of what you're saying there?
Yeah, and in addition to that baby will learn whatever language it's exposed to, or multiple languages it's exposed to,
right?
Hearing and babbling and being exposed to it. here's the sad thing. Some of us grew up. Here's the weirdest thing in the world. I am of the generation. I don't think, Melanie, you are. Maybe you might be, Scott. But I'm of the generation that existed before cell phones and social media. Before Google, before all of this stuff.
Yes.
So when we wanted to do research, we had to go to the library and go to card catalogs and take the books and go to the sections and look up the books and then find the books. We had to go to the microfiche or film newspaper articles and everything, try and find them. Here's the thing. That process of doing your own research, doing the legwork, is just as important as the information that you get from that. Because you're using your brain to find things, to use them, and by having to go through and scour and look, and is this right? Is that right? Now that it's at our fingertips, you can just go and get 600 articles that may or may not be accurate. And when it comes to apps, for example, on our phone, I'm a huge believer that the app should support you in an ability that you already have, not take it from you. So in other words, like I used to memorize all my phone numbers and all my addresses and my calendars all in my head. Now, if the phone does it, I don't have to do any of that. Well, you know what happens? That atrophies. In the old days, you had to get out a map and you had to plot your course. Now you just use GPS. So you don't even have to know where you're going. You just listen to the directions in a car. We're becoming obsolete in our own selves, in our own bodies, talents and ability. We're getting dumber and dumber and dumber and dumber and having more and more crutches. And there's nothing wrong with a crutch if you need it. It's when you don't need it and then you don't have the ability to do what you used to be able to do because you've given it away to some app or some, computer search. It's a spooky time. We as people need to maximize what we can do, not give up everything we can do.
Yes.
And, knowledge is power, but without practical application, forget it. Nothing's going to get done. Nothing's going to change. And people just think they consume all this information and go to these leadership summits, and they're surrounded by all this amazing minds in one room. But yet when they step outside of those summits, they don't do anything with it.
And like Rex said, without that discipline of attaining knowledge, knowledge loses its value. Because I can Google something and know something immediately, and the value of that knowledge was about 3 seconds of my time, whereas that knowledge before required hours or days or even months of research and time, where the knowledge became valuable, and we lose that value, right?
Oh, indeed. You can consider it this way. A couple, one is, think of, like water with a dam. It's sitting there. That's potential energy. That's what knowledge is. It's potential. It's sitting there. It's in a pool. It's in a book. It's online. It's somewhere. But it doesn't do anything until you open the dam and the water goes over a turn wheel and generates power or electricity or something. So it's only when that potential is doing something that something else can occur. Just to sit in a pool doesn't, unless you want to take a bath or swim or, so in ancient days, you had apprenticeships. You started off as an apprentice to a master, whether they were a stone cutter or, a carpenter or a cook or a mystic or whatever. You apprenticed for at least like 6 or 7 years to develop the skills to then become what was known as a fellow craft. Now you were not an apprentice, but you were kind of like a co-worker. You had a job underneath the master, and then through the fellowship, you ultimately became your own master. So there was a sequence, and it was time-based and merit-based. Now everybody just wants a diploma for sitting in a seminar that tells them, hey, you're a coach, you're an investor, you're a scientist, because we've, just like college. I'm a fan of college. I'm not opposed to it. But it also, you have to understand what it does. It gets you to meet deadlines and learn how to do research papers, in the old days at least. The degree is meaningless. How many people actually work in the field with the degree that they have? So
very
few. Briefly.
Very few. Yes.
So there's a way to actually benefit, and that is to do hands-on. You can read all about juggling. You can watch all the juggling stuff. You can imagine juggling and everything else, and that's not bad. It's good if you're a juggler to imagine juggling. But if you never juggled, you don't have a reference for it. So if you wanted to be a juggler, you actually have to pick up the balls and juggle. And the only way you're going to get good at it is to keep doing it until you improve and challenge yourself a little bit as you go along. And the most important part is to get through the learning curve where you're dropping balls and going, crap, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm wasting my time. This is too hard. I'm never going to be able to get through this. And just go through that. And then ultimately you can be a master juggler or a tightrope walker or a pianist or a chef or a cook or a financial investor or whatever. But everybody wants the fast track and a quick dollar. And that's what's hurting us.
You know what, Rex? And I think people just think they have a fear of failure. They just really have more of a fear of how they're going to look as a failure. You know?
Absolutely. I'll even argue that people, as much as they fear failure, people fear success, because with success, you have a responsibility.
A whole host, a different level of accountability.
I don't want to not get the job. I don't want to fail and not get the job. But I think the biggest fear is, what if I get the job and I have to show up every day and do the work?
Yeah.
Fear of responsibility and actually having to work. I want to do some shout outs real quick.
Yes.
We got people bunching up here. So let's do some. Believe in Yourself says, hello, Rex, Scott, and Melody. Lynn Serrano's with us, Rex. Lynn says, hello, my friends. Love you guys. And she has shared that. Sandy Shell is with us. Good morning, Sandy. We've got Kindness Worldwide.
Oh, my goodness.
And,
well,
you know this person.
So I want to give a shout out to my new and dearest lifelong friend, Kevin Smith. He started a foundation just a couple years ago called kindnessworldwide.org. And I am a kindness ambassador. And I call myself the Chief Kindness Officer. And I just love the work he's doing. And I wanted to also give a little shout out to my friend James Heisman. He has the Star Network Foundation, and he's also an author. Take Your Oxygen First. I believe that's the title. And he's just doing amazing things as well.
That's fantastic. Kindness Worldwide has said, enjoying this podcast, although many have become more connected on social media. Sadly, we are losing connection. So we're more connected, but losing connection. I love the way that's stated. This is my brother, Dean.
Hey, Dean.
My brother, Dean.
Masonic.
Rex, you might get this. Interesting Masonic reference,
I love
he's
it.
saying.
Woo. Deep.
Which part do we step into the Masonic reference, do you think, Rex?
Apprentice fellowship and fellowship.
Oh, that's okay. That's what it is.
Are we going to talk about Stoicism?
MG's with us, this is Melody's mom is with us.
I love you, Mom. I love you, Dad.
Okay. And finally, you are too kind, says your Kindness Network.
Kevin.
So
thank you, Kevin.
This all translates over. What we're talking about is kind of these things where our world has changed. And the discipline required to attain knowledge and attain skill is now, for lack of better terms, been automated. And general skills that we used to have, we're kind of letting go by the wayside. It's antiquated to pick up a dictionary or to pick up an encyclopedia and go through and figure everything out and cross-reference. We've got everything else doing that for us now. But when it comes to self-improvement, self-help, propelling oneself into a greater state, we're trying to use this same shortcuts on this self-help stuff, and I can't see where that's a good thing.
How did you learn to walk?
By standing and falling until I no longer fell down.
And before you stood and fell, you crawled. And before
exactly.
You lying on your back trying to roll over. I mean, there's a process, and while we're describing a physical process, you have to go through it. You don't just get born and suddenly you're up and running, and in order to run, you had to learn how to walk. So you had to learn to move. Well, you moved, you learned how to navigate that movement or direct that movement. Then you learn to crawl, and then you learn to stand, and then you learn to walk, and then you learn to run, and all the time you can still fall down.
And
by the way, falling down is redundant. Falling down is redundant. If you fell, obviously you're down. So you don't need to put both words together.
That's true. But this is part of a process of learning. But we are, again, with all the shortcuts, and everybody wants the quick fix. Time and experience are probably the two greatest assets we have to change and elevate and do things. But we're trying to like eliminate those. I don't need to have experience. I don't need education. I don't need time. I just got to Google it and get an answer.
Yeah, I mean, this is where the issue is. Back in the 80s, I developed something called directed questions, and a lot of people have piggybacked on that work, called it all sorts of different things. There's a bunch of different versions around it. They all miss the heart of it. One of the hearts of it is it's not about having an answer. It's about it becoming a behavior. It's getting a result from your question, not having an intellectual answer. If I say, what's the capital of Arizona? And you say, it's this, you're done. You don't have to go any further. But if I say, you know, well, how do we make beef stew? And you say, well, we have to do this and this and this and this. You're now at least describing a process. And if I said, let's make the beef stew, you can do it. But to just say the answer, why am I broken, is one of those questions people ask. Like the answer is going to help them. Why am I stuck? How come nobody likes me? I'm going to go eat worms. None of those questions are really useful.
It's not going to do anything.
And this is what I discovered when I was locked in my apartment that I write about in my book, is that I kept asking all these wrong questions, like, why did this happen? And none of that did anything to get me any better. When I started to say, how can I get better? What must I do? Where must I focus? What kinds of things am I good at that I could enhance? Then it wasn't about having the answer. It was like, how much more can I smile today? How much many wonderful feelings can I have? Not what if I'm a millionaire, not why am I lucky. It's a whole different kind of process. And the people who have taken the work and written about it have always missed the heart of it. That's why I'm not giving you a whole lot of the heart of it, because I do want people to come and learn it, because all the other stuff is like icing on the cake, but it's not the cake. It's, you know, it's like you don't eat the menu, you eat the meal. And what we've done is, as people, is to get enamored with the menu. And what you said before was time and experience are two of the most important things. But the other thing is people, it's the relationships you have. It's the connections you have. You know, there's somebody right now around the world who has the answers to all of your troubles. And they could help you if you could only be connected. So on the one hand, the ability to connect through the social media is fantastic.
Right.
It's about not just connecting like, hey, I've got 5,000 friends on Facebook. It's about developing those actual relationships that they trust you, you trust them. You know, you collaborate, you cooperate, and together you build something bigger and better and more wonderful. Because otherwise, you know, it's crazy. AI can replace all of us tomorrow, and then what? And here's the scary thing.
Yeah.
If you want the body that Arnold Schwarzenegger developed, it's going to take you about the same amount of time that Arnold Schwarzenegger did it. You might be a little faster. In other words, the promise of modeling is that you can do it faster by using the experience of the model before you. And sadly, some people go to the wrong models, and so they never work out. They go to somebody who, you know, like say was born rich, and they want to learn wealth from that person, or somebody who's got millions of dollars but never did anything to earn it. They're not the person who's going to teach you how to get wealthy, because they had it, and you know, there's nothing practical about that. So you want to go to the right mentor, the right coach, the right guide, the right source, connect with that person. And if you want to learn what they did, the promise is you can do it faster and maybe easier by having their expertise guide you. And I've always said, if you cut a day off of it, if it took Arnold Schwarzenegger 7 years and a day, and you cut a day off of it, you've done it shorter. And people want this magic bullet. Like, I don't want to take 7 years and a day. I want it yesterday. I want to already have had it. I want to already do it. And so they miss out on everything because they don't bother.
I just love the way you articulate yourself, Rex. I mean, it's so beautifully, but I think a lot of our audience is not familiar with how you got into this field, what your background is. I understand that you hold a record with the Guinness Book of World Records.
I don't know that that's my record. I help produce and co-produce events at the Los Angeles Tribune, and I believe that record, while I may be included in it, I don't know that I'm named. So I've never heard it quite put the way that you put it. But it may be that the LA Tribune, with one of our events, was the longest or most popular.
And you're in the entertainment industry. But what was your defining moment to really get into this sphere of the work that you're doing right now?
Well, I mean, it's been a lifelong pursuit. It really, truly has. And, as a kid, I was an actor and I read mystic books from the time I was 6 with my mom. And 11, I started doing it on my own, started practicing hypnosis because my dentist, medical practitioner of hypnosis, taught me that. So it's
Oh,
my
that's cool.
teenagers. But in my early 20s, I had a crisis, of life. I mean, I was broke. I lost my friends. Everything happened. I read about it. It's one of the tiny chapter in the book. So I locked myself in my apartment for 6 to 8 weeks to reflect. I was like, I can't go out in the world. I can't face people. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I sat there, and kind of what I was describing. I was going, why did this happen to me? How come I'm so, unlucky? Why can't I get anything right?
Yeah.
And about halfway through, about 2-3 weeks into it, I went, I don't care about any of this stuff. Like, people say, how long will it take? I don't want to know how long it's going to take. I want to know how quickly I can do it, but I don't want it to be something like
Painful.
I don't want microwave food. In other words, I want a really good meal. I want something that's well prepared and rightly seasoned, and all that kind of, like wine. I could. The fact that we can speed things up isn't always the best thing.
Right.
So my thing was, I wanted to, instead of going how long, will I suffer like this? I wanted to go, how soon can I find the confidence and the happiness and the joy and the, whatever resources I need in order to face the world and go out in the world, by switching my focus from why is it broken to what can I begin to do? Then the ideas started to flow. And then it was a matter of having to do those things. It wasn't just a matter of getting an answer. You can say, well, what do I need to do to be successful? We'll read more books. And
I get it.
And we fall into this, and I've done this, and I hate this, falling into the victim mentality. As soon as I see myself starting to feel sorry for myself, I snap myself out of that. Sometimes it's easier than others, though.
In my beliefs, in my experience, the victim mentality is its sole purpose of that victim or that poor me kind of thing is to relieve myself of responsibility that I could change it, and that I'm stuck and I can't do anything about it, and that absolves me of being able to change things. If the minute I say it's not my fault, somebody else did it, it's all happening to me, then I can't do anything about it, and I'm allowed to just sit. But if I get rid of that victim mentality, I start to realize that if I don't like my circumstance, if I don't like my situation, I'm the only one who has the choice whether it's going to change or not.
Mm-hmm.
I get help, but I'm the only one who has that choice. But that cannot exist with a victim mentality.
Mm-mm.
No, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of the gladiator mentality, but I don't necessarily like the metaphor or the analogy. You'd never see a gladiator go, bring me the wimpiest swordsman that you have so I can kick their ass. They were always, bring me your champion so I can be victorious and bring honor to the realm. That kind. I mean, the same thing with chess masters. They don't go, who can I find to just kick ass in chess? Let me find the worst chess player. They go, let me find the best one. And it's a different kind of attitude. Napoleon Hill called it drifting, like, a cork bobbing in the water, drifting by the wind. If you don't set a direction, you go wherever the wind blows. So you have to be purposeful, and you have to say, whatever the world offers, I get to navigate through it. If you just blame the world for what it's bringing you and you don't figure out how to navigate through it, nothing's going to change for you.
Perspective is everything. I think if we can't really help each other with that, change your perspective, it'll make your life so much easier. It's so freeing, when you finally say, I'm accountable and I get to write my next chapter. I get to direct my own cinematic movie of my life.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what I'm working on right now. I'm just creating a whole new life for myself and really connecting. And I'm just going to stay away from like-minded. But I am connecting with people that do get me to think outside of ways that I never imagined. I'm very open-minded that way. And I think it just makes me want to be a better person. When I come across people and they share some very, very intimate things with me, I don't take that lightly. I listen, and I'm getting better at being a better listener and just trying to be there for people, because I know that people have been there for me at moments that I thought were the lowest points in my life. And I think that we all have to really be kind to each other and help each other. And yeah, especially because we all do have life events that happen. It's just, that's life. And it happens to everybody. Everybody's got problems. But if we can help each other and change the perspective so that the person can get themselves unstuck, because that's the worst feeling in the world.
I want to focus in on something, Rex, you were saying a little while ago about spending so much time looking at the problem that there's nothing left to create a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Is that part of mindset that you're talking about? Because if you're sitting there, it's like, why am I so fat? Why can't I lose weight? And I'm so fat. And all I'm thinking about is that, instead of thinking about, why don't I get up and go do something or do this or do that?
Or coming up with excuses.
Or coming up with
all
excuses.
The time. That's what I was doing. I was always coming up with excuses like, no, I can't do that. I don't have the time. I was always, you make time. You make time for things that you really want. You've got to make time for your dreams, whatever they are. You have to. Is
this a mindset problem, Rex, where we spend more time looking at the negative or the problem instead of looking for solutions?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. You know, I'm known as the mindset master and the attitude doctor. And I always tell people that the hardest sale in the world is to convince people that they need to adjust their attitude. You hear about it, you know, a positive attitude, this, that, and the other thing. Or people now talk about toxic positivity. How can you be too positive?
Nobody ever died from a positivity or kindness overdose. Okay?
If somebody was going to die from that, Richard Simmons would have died long before he did. He was always so positive. But
the point is, what's the alternative to being positive? It's being not positive. And which do you prefer? What makes you feel better? Which provides the direction for you to move from? Melanie said something earlier, and sometimes I don't feel that way, so I change it. That ability to shift is the very thing that I've been teaching for 50 years, that ancient mystics have taught for eons. You have to be able to look at what's going on and then go, no, I don't want that. I want this instead. If you only focus on what you don't want, you get more of what you don't want. Why? Because you're focused on it. The very problem that some people define for themselves, what they think is the solution, well, if I only had this, if I only had that, if I only had more time, if I only had more money, is the very problem that they need to stop promoting, because we perpetuate the stuff that doesn't work so much more than we perpetuate the stuff that does work. Why? Because we haven't been trained, we haven't been coached, we haven't been mentored in learning how to do things to make them work. It's just the way society has brought us up. We can whine about it. No, but I mean, we can whine about why society is broken or why the world is the way it is, or we can do something about it.
Well, I think, again, that's that kind of thing where it's like, I don't want to take on the responsibility because I don't want the responsibility of having to do certain things when everybody can make an impact. You know, Rex, we've talked with a lot of people in different shows that everything they're talking about, like our friend Scott Schilling and people like that, it's all about restoring dignity and kindness and doing all of that stuff. And it's really, really neat. But why are we, and this, I'm asking all of us this question, why are we so attracted as people, and maybe my concept is wrong, but I feel like we're more attracted to the negative than we are to the positive.
Oh my goodness.
If I put a show about Mother Teresa on one channel and a show about Charles Manson on the other, Charles Manson is going to bury Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
The negative and the shock and the horror and the pain attracts us. Am I seeing that wrong, Rex, or is that?
No, you're right. I mean, people gawk at accidents, and you know they love to talk about the bad news that's going on around the world, but especially in their neighborhood. You know, they're, oh my God, you know. So,
we got plenty of that in Broward County.
Well, you know, the thing is that there's never been. I mean, Napoleon Hill said, "I want my philosophy to be, you know, this." Jesus did this. Buddha did that. Muhammad did this. You know, our Eastern and Western mystics, you know, from Stoicism on. You know, all have told us how to be better and to do it, but it's never been what's been embraced by society as a whole. There have been cults, there have been religions, there's been groups, there's been whatever that try and accomplish this because sometimes they cherry pick stuff and they ignore the rest. But the key is this: if you go again, why am I broken and why does the world suck? You're going to get all the reasons and answers for that, which is the domain of psychology. Sadly, psychology has done a lot to keep us hobbled, to keep us, codependent, to keep us downtrodden, not necessarily for nefarious means. They
Mhm.
just don't realize that if all you do is focus on what's wrong, all you get is what's wrong. What you do is instead learn to release and let go of it, drop it for God's sake, and focus on what you want to build that is better. If I said, do you want to sit on a hot stove and burn your butt, or would you like to have a party with lots of friends and feel loved and cared for? What do you think you'd choose? And yet many people would sit on that hot stove because they don't know any better.
Oh,
Not necessarily a good
why
analogy.
did I sit on the stove?
But guess what? Why did I sit on the stove?
People like that really burn my ass. Let me tell you.
Oh my God. Twice for me.
What
comments?
Well, what is needed is for people to understand. In order for me to sail, say, from the Wisconsin side of Lake Michigan to the Michigan side of Lake Michigan, I need to say I want to go over there to Michigan, and I have to set a course.
Mhm.
And then I have to do what's necessary to get to the other side. And if the wind dies down and I don't have an oar or an engine, then I'm going to sit there until the wind picks back up. So the more I prepare for my journey and build, make sure that I have the tools and the resources and things that I need, if there's bad water or there's bad weather or there's pleasant weather or there's no weather or whatever, the more that I can be resourceful and say, what if things were to go wrong, what would I need? Like the be prepared motto. That's why we do fire drills, by the way. So we're prepared when there's an emergency. We know what to do. And so what we need to do is prepare ourselves to overcome our problems and our difficulties, and also to be successful. And that means cultivating the right attitude, mindset, and then the practices the habits that we need to, so that they become wired in at a neurological level. If you learn to skateboard or ride a bike, for most people, there's some beginner's luck in some cases, but you're not an expert when you start out.
Right.
And through time and through practice, you become good at it. And some people take that to, a very top level ability. And others are just grateful they can, skateboard a little bit or ride a bike. The point is still a process. That bike riding process, or learning to drive a car, or learning to do anything, requires that you do it. You have experience in it. And how do you get experience? You fail. You try it, it doesn't work out. And so you try it again, you have to adjust. Some people learn that when things don't work out, they whine and complain and bitch and moan and then look for somebody to save them. And then others go, it didn't work out. What do I need to do to make it work? And then they explore what didn't work. Instead, they know what didn't work. So now they look for something else. We are infinite resourcefulness. We are infinite possibilities. We are infinite opportunities. And those all exist around us too. And yet people don't look to that. They
do not.
They look to the problem. They look to what's wrong. They look to, if a person gives you a finger and you go, it's not the other person that's the problem.
Yep.
Right.
It's the reaction that you have to the person giving you the finger. And if they smile at you and you go, oh, it's not the other person, it's you. The other person is independent of you doing whatever they do, and you're reacting one way or the other. You need to learn, I need to learn, we all need to learn how to respond differently instead of reacting out of habits that cause us pain and suffering and that we don't want. And that is an ability that comes from having the wisdom to pursue it. The God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Wisdom comes from experience.
Yes.
Absolutely. I want to read a few comments because we got a few. Juan Velez is with us. Saying,
Yay,
good morning.
Juan. Good morning,
legend. What amazing advice. I just want to give a shout out. Juan is a captain at Lauderhill Fire and Rescue.
Yes.
And he is the one who last Tuesday saved my life.
Yep.
And I appreciate you, Juan.
Beautiful.
Thank you. He's a good man and a good friend.
Awesome.
Nellie says, Melody, you're an amazing listener. We're
I love
hearing,
you, friend.
we each can be the reason someone believes in the goodness of people. That's quite a nice
Kevin.
statement. We can all
That's
contribute to the goodness of people. That's really important. Toxic positivity.
I think that's my friend James.
Let's see. Mindset is everything. Mindful kindness, i.e., kindfulness,
I love
works
that.
wonders.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Works wonders.
Thank you.
And I'm going to tell everybody out there, in my experience, it's always served me better to be kind than to be right. I've been right many times and hurt many people, but every time I'm kind, I always am right. I always end up being okay. So it's stop.
You never feel bad for being kind.
Right. But I often feel bad for being right. We have a question here. It says, would it be safe to suggest that most people are attracted to negativity to use it as a way to compare it to their own lives in order to seek some internal consolation? Are we attracted to negativity so we could justify our own misery? I think that's where we're going with that.
Well, it's a beautiful question. And then my answer on the one hand would be, who cares?
I love it. I love it. Who cares?
But it's a worthwhile question. I'm not making fun of the question of that, but it's like, okay, what if we are? The point is this: people come to me and have for the last 5 decades because what we do is we work together to connect them with the resources and to help them discover the possibilities and opportunities to use those resources so that they can transform the results that they're getting so they can live a life that's qualitatively better, whether that's the health that they want, the wealth that they want, happiness, or relationships. It's learning a formula, it's applying a process, and it's doing that process over and over and over again until it becomes a habit. Now, some of that can be sped up a little bit. There are easy, fast ways. A lot of people think you have to suffer to transform. You have to beat yourself up. You have to boot it. You have to 10x it.
Rock bottom. Yeah.
You gotta walk on fire and break bricks and all that. Well, you can, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
The point is that it's about how do you learn to be gentle to yourself and kind to yourself and permissive with yourself so that you can release and let go of the things that aren't working and enhance and incorporate and enhance the things that do work. And for most people, they don't know. And so that going back to the question, which was, let me see if I can find it back here. Is it safe to say that most people are attracted to negativity to compare it to their own lives? Well, first off, the answer is yeah. And here's the thing, is society teaches us to compare. The neighbor's got 2 lawnmowers, you want 2 lawnmowers. They got 2 cars, 2 TVs. Our marketing has always been about acquiring more things.
Yeah.
Comparison is a joy thief.
Keeping up with the Joneses, and I don't take responsibility for that.
Comparison is a way to suffer.
Right.
If you compare yourself and go, they have more than me, you feel bad. If you go, oh, I got more than them, maybe you feel good. It doesn't do anything, in that regard. If you're comparing, stop comparing. Only compare where you are today from where you were yesterday. Right. Am I moving forward or am I moving backwards? In other words, you have to develop the wherewithal to go, am I, if you want to get across the room to get a drink of water, you have to put one foot in front of the other consistently from where you are to where the water is. And if you take 1 step forward and then 2 steps back and then 1 step forward and then 3 steps back and then 3 steps back and then 3 steps forward, it's going to take you a long time. And that's where most people are. And they're always constantly checking, am I better than this or better than that? Instead of going, I am making myself better today. I'm transforming myself. I am learning. I am developing the skills. I'm developing the attitude. Attitude is the #1 predictor for success in every area of your life.
Amen
and yet
to that.
that's the last thing that people think to develop. They go, I don't have any money. Okay, change your attitude toward money. No, I need to get a job. I need to find this. I need to do that. I need to do this. I need to have this. I need to do that. I'm going to take another online course.
You can learn anything. Attitude's everything.
Attitude is everything.
Well, some people jump right past attitude. They get right to, I want to manifest all this. It's probably not going to happen, and this really sucks, but let me manifest. Manifesting is your attitude, isn't it?
It is.
You're always, here's the thing that's so stupid about all this stuff. You are always manifesting.
That's
You're
right.
either manifesting things you want or things you don't want. You're either attracting things you want or things you don't want. You're either creating goodness or you're creating messes. You cannot not manifest. You can only direct how you manifest. So you're either going to manifest more good or more not so good. And for most people, they don't understand that. Like anything else, it's a mastery process. If you master the skill to devote yourself to manifesting more good, you'll manifest more good. Right now, most people are experts at manifesting crap. I call them crap magnets. They just constantly, and I've been there. I do that. I know what it's like. I've been there too. Yeah.
But
And Rex,
it's the people who sit there and say, I don't want to think about elephants. I'm not going to think about elephants. I'm not going to think about elephants. Well, guess what? I'm going to wake up at 2 a.m. and guess the first thing out of my mouth is elephant, because I spent so much time focused on that I actually manifested that is going to stay in the front of my mind. Whereas instead of putting the focus on the things I don't want, start putting the focus on the things that I do want.
and I have to share something with you.
Yes, please.
I never told you this. So I was going through my journal and stuff. So I journal, not consistently, but I do journal. And one of the things that I wrote right before we met was like, I finally decided, I was like, I really want to up level my podcast. I have my own little thing going on, but nobody to interview. I'm just doing some mindset activations, a little neuroscience, stuff like that. So in my mind, I said, it would be really great if I could meet a seasoned professional with his own studio. I was very specific, seasoned professional with his own studio, likes talking about mindset, is into music, and within, I don't know, 24 hours, I met his business partner. I was here within 24 hours, and we were recording our first show together. I was blown away.
Yeah, I'm sticking around until you find that person that foots the bill for you. But
well,
I'm kidding. I think it's awesome.
That's a beautiful story, and it does work. But it's also not just what you wanted and setting that intention. It's who you are, because you were open to receive it and open to make it happen. Because people can say, I want this, I want this, I want this, and then never get it because they keep pushing it away. They keep, they're focused on other things. Wanting doesn't bring you much. I want a red balloon right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
In order for me to get one, somebody either has to now hear what I said and send me one, or I have to go get one myself. Or I just sit and wait until one shows up.
It's willingness that gets it done. Because I wanted to win the lottery. I used to sit in bars and talk about what I'm going to do if I win the lottery. But you know what I never did?
What?
I never bought a ticket. I didn't, because I wasn't willing to get up off my ass, go across the street, buy a ticket, and do it. I wanted the result, but I wasn't willing to do the work.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what we're talking about, Rex?
Well, yeah. And the reason why I've created courses over the last 50 years and wrote books and created the Attitude Activator and tools for transformation, things like that, is because there is a formula, there is a blueprint, there is a process that I teach that you can learn to use to enhance everything that you do and make life far more glorious. A lot of times I talk about, if life you're glorious or not so glorious. And so it's learning how you describe things. It's learning how you look at things. It's learning, because your attitude is a compilation of all sorts of beliefs that you have about yourself or not. And then people will say, well, you have to uncover all your less than glorious beliefs, right? So they tell you to write it down. There's nothing wrong with that. Even in my book, I have an exercise like that. It's okay. But guess what? If tomorrow I said, here's this opportunity, do you want it? All of your unconscious, unwanted, limiting beliefs will start to come up. Because that's what happens whenever we start to leave our comfort zone.
We have to create our own kismet moments in life.
This is where most people stop. Do you know where most people fail? Before they start.
Yes.
Because they talk themselves out of it. They talk themselves out of it. They go, I would like to do this, but I don't know how. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have the energy. Well, what if this happens? What is, like, you say the fear of success or the fear of failure. I can't handle that. I don't know what to do. So they don't do anything. They go just to their comfort zone. And then they suffer and feel bad. And do you know what they do then?
What's
they
that?
Suffer and feel bad, because that's what they're used to. That's their comfort zone, is suffering and feeling bad. And so when they try to leave their comfort zone, they start to suffer and feel bad from leaving it. So they just go back to it where they don't have to do anything, and they can still feel.
And it's so simple to feel better, attract better. Feeling better always attracts better. It's, they go hand in hand.
I'm going to take a page from our friend Barry Selby's book and quote Richard Bach, who wrote Illusions and Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah, and say that there was a great line in there that said, argue for your limitations, then they're yours. Yeah. The more time we spend arguing about what we can't do, thinking about what we can't do, and focusing on what we can't do, we will have more can't do's than we will have got it done's.
And the reason why, you can go to a seminar with 1,000 people, and sit in something like that, or you could go to a training like what I like to do, is we would troubleshoot, because if you can't get immediate feedback where you can adjust and be corrected and guided. Kind of like if you have something on your face and somebody goes, you have something on your face, they're being nice to you. They're not being mean, so that you can remove it. But if you don't have the feedback, you wouldn't know it. Right. So it's a process, kind of a trial and error with a qualified coach or a qualified guide. You know, I always talk about it as being a tour guide, because you go, look out for that hole, avoid that. And, oh, look at the pretty waterfall over there. Let's go take a closer look. In other words, pointing out to people how they can live their lives better. And then you're helping them. And when they slip or fall, you help them up. Yeah. We're all in this together. The idea of this is to be kind to yourself and kind to other people. I love this. I don't care if you're Christian or not Christian. I don't care what religion you are. The greatest commandment, according to the Christian Bible, was to love God with all your heart, soul, and strength, to love yourself as you love, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. 3 people in there, if you want to call them people. There's God, there's your neighbor, and then there's you. You're supposed to love and be kind and gentle and help them, and yourself. So the problem with a lot of people is they either want it for themselves and they don't give a crap about other people. You see that all the time. Or they're willing to not have it so other people can, because they think somehow that's better. The goal is to learn how to collaborate and to cooperate with your own person, so that you can live the kind of life that you deserve to live, and then to help collaborate and cooperate with other people so that the world is a better place.
Yes.
To uplift and edify. I say speak to uplift. I speak to bless, heal, uplift, edify, prosper, transform, because otherwise all of the speaking we're doing usually is toward the negative. It's toward what can't be done and what doesn't work. Exactly.
I want to get a few comments in before we run out of time.
Can't believe it's almost
Karen,
over.
our business partner, you observe what you observe, focus on becomes real in life. That's true. Nellie also says, yes, be open to amazing things. You never know what may happen.
That's right.
Be open to connections with others. And then Karen followed up with, like Neville Goddard teaches, stay in the state of wish fulfilled.
Now, here's the thing, and this is the stuff that's important.
Yes.
Is you hear Neville Goddard say, live the feeling of the wish fulfilled and that kind of thing, and they try. And then they start to compare. They go, am I actually getting closer to what I want? And they go, no. And that's what holds things up. In other words,
that's why you're not fond of affirmations, right?
Well, questions work better. Affirmations can work, but you got to know how to use them, because it's they can be powerful. But if I go, I am 150 pounds and I'm actually 250 pounds, part of me knows I'm not 150 pounds.
Right.
So it goes, yeah, right. No, you're not, so, but there are ways to make that work, and to make it better and more effective for you. But the larger point, I guess, is this, is that anything is possible if you put your mind to it in the right way, with the right attitude. You can accomplish anything and everything, and you can surprise and delight yourself and millions and billions of people around the world too, if that would be your purpose. The point is that most people fail to understand that they have one foot on the boat and one foot on the dock, and they go, I want to get over to the other side of the lake, and they just keep going like this. I want to get to the lake, but they have, and until you put both feet in the boat and head towards your direction, you're never going to get there. So you have to understand, if you're vacillating, if you're saying, oh, I'm living in this brand new house, and then you're looking around your house going, this sucks, I hate this place. You're split, your attention, your consciousness is split. You're not the predominant thoughts that you need to have in order to generate the kind of energy to make those things happen is being dissipated. And it needs to be focused. That's why the analogy of holding a magnifying glass on a piece of paper, on the sidewalk, can burn that piece of paper, but just the paper sitting on the sidewalk, it's too diffused. And people constantly are giving away their power and their energy. They're diffusing their resources, and they're not focused singularly on what they can, who they can be, because you don't get what you want, you get who you are.
That's right. Yes.
We've got
mic drop moment.
Brilliant insights, great podcast. See the good. Be the good, go the extra mile.
Thank you, Kevin.
There are some other comments that are a little lengthy. We're not going to have a chance to get to all of those, but please read the comments if you're watching the show. As we wrap things up, first of all, from all of us right here at Sober Life Studios, Live Louder Podcast, we want to wish everybody a happy Memorial Day. Thank you to the men and women who have served our country and
Thank you, Dad.
gone above and beyond and done so much for all of us. We could probably sit here, all of three of us, and name off a myriad of people who we respect and honor in our own lives that have served in the military, but we thank all of them. Also, Rex, you have a book, Life on Your Terms. Tell us quickly, what is this book for and how can you get it?
So you can transform your life. Go to rexsykes.com/book. It's right there in front of everyone. Get the book. It's great. It's like me whispering in your ear and telling you how you can be different and how you can do it. And people love it. I mean, I'm really proud of the book. And if you go there and you follow the instructions from rexsykes.com book, I will also gift you a $497 online video training on the mastery process called the Mastery Loop at no charge, just for buying the book on Amazon. And that's a deal that
That's incredible. Oh, I am so going to promote that.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
I will. I will, Rex.
No, I know you. You're wonderful. I want to say very quickly and lastly, and we don't have enough time, but one of the things is, I'm one of the authorities on Napoleon Hill, and the very first chapter is Edward C. Barnes, who went to Edison to say, I want to be your partner. And he showed up as a bum and blah, blah, blah. Well, the point is that for 5 years, he didn't get the job that he wanted with Edison. He wasn't his partner. Edison gave him a job as a janitor. But in the book, Hill says for those 5 years, for the time that passed, he kept that vision, that passion, that alive within him, so that when an opportunity presented itself, and it comes from left field, nobody knows when it's going to come, he was ready. What happens for most people is, if they got Edison say, I want to be your partner, and Edison said, you be a janitor, they go, well, screw you, or that sucks, or I thought I was going to be a partner, or nothing's going to work, or they get to be the janitor and they grumble, like, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, and they look at what the circumstances are. One of the lessons, all of the lessons in Napoleon Hill's book and in mine, is you got to ignore the circumstances. It doesn't mean you're not informed. It doesn't mean you don't know they're going on, but you can't let them.
Yeah, the distractions.
And that's what people do, because they constantly, again, they get 1 foot on the boat, 1 foot on the dock, and they go back and forth. You have to ignore the bad circumstances and promote the circumstances you want. That's what living from the feeling of the wish fulfilled means. That most people can't do it because they've been conditioned and trained to live otherwise and to live, uncomfortably in their comfort zone. And what the book and my programs, or what I do, coaching or otherwise, is to help connect those people up with that power, that ability, that resource, and the attitude to be a winner in your life. That's why the book says, start winning. Stop whining and start winning.
Love it.
Love it.
I'm so sad that we're ending.
I know.
I could talk to you forever, Rex.
We could.
Let's do that another time then.
Yeah,
we will definitely.
Promise.
Definitely, you will be certainly a reoccurring guest often. Also, Rex and I are working on a project together that we are hoping to roll out in short order within the next couple of weeks.
Can you give me some details?
We're behind a little bit, but you got a little taste. It's the Rex and Scott show, and we're really going to be truly attacking what's going on in the world with relationships, the decline of people in their own abilities. We brainstorm, and every time we talk, it gets more and more exciting. Like I said, we pulled back a little bit, or I pulled back while I dealt with my health issues.
Yeah,
rightly so,
because the heart monitor would have interfered with the microphone, and it just would have been a mess,
I'd be happy to be a guest.
Oh, you will be one of our first guests. Absolutely.
Of course.
I hope so.
Rex, thank you so very much for joining us. I want everybody to go to rexsykes.com, check it out.
Thank you,
Get
Rex.
the book, Life on Your Terms, and watch all of other Rex's shows. And
get your daily dose of vitamin Rex.
That's right.
I do.
So if I may close with this, and I always say it, and Lynn, thank God, just put graphics up and everything else. It's dog crap and there's diamonds, you choose. And most people, sadly, choose dog crap. And so what I say is, it's your choice. Understand that you have the choice. Make the choice that works for you, and learn how to celebrate everything.
Thank you so much, Rex Sykes. I'm Scott.
I'm Melody.
We want to thank you for joining us right here from Sober Life Studios. Make sure you check us out every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Don't forget to like the show, subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye, all.
Woo!